Dear students, as I told you in the previous class that we have completed about animals. In today's topic, we will be studying about plant breeding. I told you earlier itself. In this chapter, we will be discussing about two topics. One is major is about animals, and the other is about the plants. In plants, we have discussed plant breeding. After that, different technique of plant hybridization of plants. Then we will be talking about single cell protein, biofortification, different types of advantages, what is the significance of bioproteins, as the importance of biofortification. Then we will talk about single cell protein, detailed methodology, advantages of that, all those things in fact. So today when we start with plant breeding, by now, since you have listened to the many classes of this chapter, you have understand the meaning of breeding, right? Clear? Cross breeding and all those things. So here, plants are the major source of human food. You all know that. Our major food comes from plants in terms of grains, pulses, vegetables, fruits. Almost all parts of the different plants we use. Some of the roots are used, some of the stem are used, bark is used as food, leaves are used, buds are used, flowers are used, seeds are used. So right from root to fruit we use the plants. In different plants we use different parts as food, and many medicinal values are also there of plants. So now why to breed? Actually normally it's happening. You know that from past 11,000 to 14,000 years ago, since then, man is doing agriculture on planet Earth. It's happening. Our great grandfathers, right? Since from the inception of man on the planet Earth, agriculture is going on. Food process technologies and different technologies are going on. So here, in the conventional method, in the traditional methods, in the old method, so far what our Indian farmers traditionally they were following, right? In the same methods, there is an improvement, there is an enhancement, improvement by using scientific techniques. That's what is known as plant breeding. So now, when after independence, our country suffered a lot as far as the food production is concerned. Immediately after independence, the major issue in our country was about production of the food, supplying of the food, to meet the demand of the food. Why? Because on one hand, population was increasing, on the other hand, the agricultural land was decreasing. Nowadays also same thing happening. Population is increasing, agricultural land is decreasing. How it is decreasing? By industrialization, by urbanization, by construction of different bridges, dams, industries, spreading of cities, fine. There are also what we call development, fine. The metropolitan cities acquiring. So all these events have reduced the agricultural land. Our country is an agricultural country. 66% of our population still involves in agriculture. Agriculture not only means only growing of rice, ragi, paddy for other pulses. No, agriculture is a broad science. It includes rearing of animals, it includes poultry, it includes fisheries, it includes maintaining of livestock, cattle, sheep, goat, cow, buffaloes, other animals which are used as livestock, other animals which are used in agriculture. All that different groups of sciences, different branches of sciences together, we collectively call as agriculture. So our farmers are involved. They are not only involved in rearing of plants, caring of plants, but they are also involved in the caring and breeding of animals. So in plant breeding, whatever the conventional method, old methods by which we used to produce food grains were unable to meet the demand as the population was increasing, not only of our country. This was the major problem of the whole world. In some countries, lots of food is available, food grains are available, food is available, population is less. In some countries, food production is very less, whereas population is more. Some people, many millions of children are dying because of malnutrition, lack of food, lack of proteins, lack of carbohydrates. So all these problems are there. To balance that, to enhance the food production, there are different techniques. I was telling about our country. In India, after independence, what happened? population increased, and the production and the supplying of the food became a major issue in our country. So in 1970s, from 1960 to 1970, we struggled a lot as far as food is concerned. From 1970 onwards, different hybridization techniques were started. Then during the same time, we will talk about green revolution now. Okay? Green revolution, the terminology you have to understand. Green revolution. In today's topic, I will talk about green revolution in the world and in our country. Then we will talk about the introduction of the plant breeding in next class in detail proceed. That will be asked for 5 marks separately. I will discuss in the next class. So why should we introduce scientific methods? Apart from conventional traditional methods, scientific aspects, scientific methods, strategies, technologies has to be introduced in agriculture is to enhance the food production in the available land. As I told you, population is increasing, land is decreasing. So what's happening here? There is a huge gap between the demand, need and the production and the supply. There is a huge gap here. To bridge this gap, to fill this gap, to bridge the gap between production and the demand, these techniques have been involved. So these techniques, scientific methodologies, advanced techniques, scientific procedures, methods, strategies, plans, programs are the bridge between the production and the demand. So that with the available land itself, how to increase more food, how to produce more food, how to increase the production of food. You all know, we also know, where our grandfather were doing agriculture. Now you go to your villages, you ask your grandfather, they were doing agriculture. Now there is a land. In the same land there are houses, there is a certain bridge, there is a certain small factory, or now that grounds without fields, what we call agricultural fields, have become now volleyball ground, cricket ground, football ground. So like this, the agricultural land has decreased. Decreased means it has not vanished from our country, but the land has been acquired by urbanization and industrialization, by building industries, factories, right? Setups organized by increasing the number of houses. So that's why we started constructing vertical construction apartments instead of horizontal spreading, vertical construction. That's what I told you in agriculture also. We learned this technique of vertical construction. One house, then the next house is the other adjacent. Rather than that, one house, second, third, fourth, like this. So vertical construction in order to save the land, agricultural land. How to increase the production? By hybridization. What is hybridization technique? The technique is the technique which involves the production of plants which are disease resistant, because you know that plants, fine, right from shooting level, from shooting from the beginning level till the fruit, fine, they are infected with pests, insects, bacterial diseases, fungal infections, viral diseases, fine. Pests used to eat them, insects used to damage them, fine. So from plants has to be taken care right from the beginning. So all this also damage the food production, decrease the food production. We have to overcome by applying pesticides, insecticides. This part of the topic you will study in 10th chapter, microbes in human welfare, but giving you the hint how the production has decreased and how to increase. So in the available land itself, we have to increase the production. What is plant hybridization? Plant breeding or plant hybridization means to say that where we have to make plants which are disease resistant. They should become resistant to viral diseases, bacterial diseases, fungal infections, and their life span has to be reduced. For example, a plant is maturing after 1 year. Example, 1 year. After that, it used to give us fruits. Example, that plant has to be hybridized. We have to reduce the maturing period. 6 months. After 6 months, the plant has matured. It has started bearing flowers and fruits. So this one, semi-dwarf varieties. Semi-dwarf varieties. The plants are very tall. Nowadays, classical example I can give you of papaya plant, or we can talk about coconut plant, which are very tall earlier, used to mature very long after 4, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. Now the plants of coconut, pine and the papaya are maturing faster. They are semi-dwarf varieties. So by hybridization technique, the plants which are tall, they have been short. The plants which are short, they are made tall. Fine. Like for example, coriander. We used to get when we were small, we used to get this much. Fine. Very small one. Now it has become this much. Fine. They are so tall, so big, so heavy, so hefty, but there is no much of the smell. aroma has lost. So when quantity increases, quality decreases. Of course, that's true. Here also, that's what we call as inbreeding depression anyway. Fine. So plant breeding to enhance the disease resistant capacity, to produce more early maturing, to produce semi-dwarf varieties. The plants which are resistant to bacterial diseases, viral diseases, fungal diseases, and the plants should be resistant to pests and insects. These are all the objectives of plant breeding. Right? After that, so when 1970 came, 1970, 1960, 65, 65, 66, 70, 1970 till 1960 we struggled. From 1960 to 1980 is what is known as golden age of agriculture in our country. We call it as golden age of agriculture because hybridization technique happened here. So what is green revolution means? In the year all over the world, a scientist by name Norman E. Borlaug. He is considered as the father of green revolution in the world. Why he is referred as father of green revolution in the world? Because he almost tripled the production of rice. That is from 35 million tons in the world per year to almost 89.5, almost tripled from 30 to 35 to 90, 95, almost triple the production of rice. He increased the production by hybridization techniques, plant breeding techniques. Then from 11 million tons of wheat to almost 75 million tons of wheat in the same cultivation land. Fine, in the same period of time, same land, the amount of land is same, hectares is same, duration is same, but the production quantity, there is a huge difference here from 11 million tons to 75 million tons. So this revolution was brought by Norman E. Borlaug. He hybridized the rice variety and wheat variety. Fine, rice and wheat variety. Clear. He worked in International Rice Research Institute, Mexico, USA. Fine. He worked on IR8. Fine. IR8 is the name. Tai Cheng TN1, Tai Cheng native, one variety of rice. Fine. They worked in Taiwan also, and in Mexico also this research was done. In Taiwan also done. IR8 is a rice research, the hybrid variety of rice. Fine. Then he tripled the production of wheat and rice. That's why he is considered as the father of green revolution. Why? Because rice is the most staple, largely used food all over the world. In South India, if you come, we use rice with ragi. You go to North Karnataka, they use jawar, bajra, they use wheat, they use rice. Go to Central India, they use jawar, bajra, wheat, less of rice. North India also again same. So in South India, we use much of ragi, Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu. Kerala also little less. So when you go to Central India, Northern India, fine, towards other states, you don't come across the use of ragi. Rather, it is known as finger millets. Fine, we call it commonly as ragi. So wheat and rice is the most staple food. Rice is number one, wheat is second. So he used these varieties. He worked in International Rice Research Institute. Fine. In 1964, some books says 1964, some books says 1966. In our study method also we have told around 1966. Same techniques were being adopted in our country by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, right, from Tamil Nadu. This professor, this doctor, scientist applied the same technique, fine, on rice, clear, fine, and also on wheat, He hybridized, he tripled the production, triple the production of these two, and introduced, fine. Here, Ratna, right? One rice variety of India, hybrid variety, fine, clear. Then wheat variety, Kalyan Sona, Sonalika, Ratna, Jaya. These are the two varieties of rice. It will be asked for 2 marks in the final exam. Name the hybrid varieties, Indian hybrid varieties of wheat. You can say Kalyan Sona and one is Sonalika. The other is the rice varieties are Ratna and Jaya. These are the hybrid varieties which produce double, triple than same techniques what was adopted by Norman E. Borlaug. Her daughter had come to India in 2013 I feel. She had come to India to solve the problems of farmers. She met with farmers, she met with scientists, dietitians, nutritionists, agricultural scientists, fine, clear? So, in our Indian Agricultural Research Institute, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, fine, Indian Horticultural Research Institute, same techniques were being applied, fine, it is there in Bangalore also, fine, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, so same around 1970s, means 1964, 66, 70. These varieties of rice, Ratna and Jaya, Kalyan, Sona and Sonalika were introduced in our country, which doubled, tripled the production of rice and wheat. So we called as Green Revolution of India, Green Revolution of India. And who is the father for this? Dr. M.S. Swaminathan is considered as the father of Green Revolution in India. Right? Clear? Like I had told you in dairy technology, Dr. Varghese Kurin. Some book says Kurin Varghese, some book says Varghese Kurin. He is from Kerala. He brought white revolution. Fine. Now we are stands first as far as the milk production, milk products are concerned. Okay. In case of wheat, we stand second. After China, we stand second. After the hybridization techniques of M.S. Swaminathan. Try to understand. M.S. Swaminathan is the father of Green Revolution in India. Dr. Norman E. Borlaug is the father of Green Revolution for the whole world. His techniques, fine, semi-DOF techniques, disease-resistant techniques, pest-resistant techniques were being adapted. They were crossed. Two breeds were crossed here. Hybridization is done. Next class we will talk about how to hybridize. Fine. So cross-breeding, hybridization technique was done. Then these varieties of Ratna, rice, Jaya, Kalyan, Sona and Sonalika, it can be asked for 2 marks or it can be used in it can be asked for NEET also. I will be discussing about few NEET questions also. Few NEET questions also after this, fine, clear. So these are the new varieties, fine. This is the introduction to plant breeding and green revolution, fine. So remember about these techniques, fine. The importance of these techniques is to produce disease-resistant plants, semi-DOF plants, early maturing plants, and also as well as the pest and insect-resistant plants. So these are the objectives of plant breeding. Methodology we will discuss. I have skipped one topic here in between as per the study material. After this plant breeding, we have given the general methodology of plant breeding. We will talk about that separately. Then I have talked about green revolution. So these introductory techniques I have made, these introductory points I have made, these two topics I have combined. In the next class, we will talk about the general procedure of plant hybridization. It's a compulsory question for 5 marks. Fine. Try to study the study method also. Keep studying. God bless you. Good luck. Take care.